remember that line from, I don't know.
Let's do this thing, Brad.
Let's do it.
Brad says, let's do it. Let's do this thing. Hey, this is Val Campbell, and I am broadcasting this evening, or this morning, I should say, from smoky Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, it's not fog. It looks like it, but I just saw it this morning. I don't usually stay confirmed on this, but Seattle had the worst air quality in the nation. Then Portland was next. I think LA was down like 4th or 5th or something. So it's pretty bad up here in Seattle right now. We're going to be staying inside all day. So
it's a crazy thing. Well, we actually have some friends that invited us over for a barbecue at their waterfront house this evening. It's kind of a business sort of thing. And so we'll go over there and we'll hang out, and what the heck, any day is a better day at the beach. Right. But yeah, I'm looking out right now and it looks like heavy fog. I've got my window right in front of me.
And it's weird, Val, because 2020's been, I'll just use the term dumpster fire of a year, especially if you're in Seattle. But lost power on Tuesday. We had power out. It went on and off about 6 times during the night, Monday night, Tuesday morning. 5 Tuesday morning went off. We didn't get power on till afternoon on Tuesday, so that threw me behind. You don't realize how dependent you are on electricity, because I can't do anything online because don't have any power. And now we get this smoke pouring in. It's almost like, what's next in the script? We've only got 4 months to go. What else?
You got your bug screens, because the locusts are coming, man.
That I probably wouldn't be surprised.
So for those people who don't know, first, I'm Val Campbell, Seattle area, and Brad. Introduce yourself a little bit so that people know.
My name down below me says Brad Krantz, so
it says that. But
I will claim to know him and to be him. I'm also from Seattle, South Seattle area, native of Seattle. One of the few. My wife actually moved up from Sacramento when she was about 10 years old. So, I'm
actually knew Brad Krantz before we started this. So I will testify that you are actually Brad Krantz.
I am. It's not my twin brother, because I don't have one.
And somebody asked me the other day if they could call me Val, and I said, yeah, that's why my mom gave me that name. She always called me Val, so I guess anybody else can. So good.
Well, you don't have the long version. Mine, if they call Bradley, then I might be in trouble. So
Bradley. Yeah, I see. I didn't have that. Mine was just
Val.
Val Steven. I guess I have to say it was Val Steven. Yeah.
Ooh, that's when
so let's tell everybody what's going on.
Yeah.
As far as our comments about all the smoke and everything down south of Seattle, there basically is a valley that runs down through here, and there's
Valley.
Puget Sound is on the west side. Brad's sort of up on the hills over there.
Not too far. We're right off the Sound. Actually, we're not too far up.
Yeah. And on the east side of this valley that runs right down south of Seattle is a hillside down there. And that hillside caught fire a week ago, basically.
Somewhere down Sumner, Bonnie Lake.
We call it the Sumner grade because there's a highway 410, that goes up that hill. It's a very, very steep hill.
Yeah.
I drove up it in my old truck one time a number of years ago, and my truck could hardly make it up that hill. That'll tell you something. But anyway, that hillside caught fire, and they haven't contained it yet. I don't think it's still racing down there. And of course, we had some kind of fluke winds right about that time, and it dusted up this fire. Doesn't usually happen over here. Usually, that's in Eastern Washington because it's so hot and dry.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So yeah, we're kind of going through that, and today, the last few weeks, well, we had Shelley Renault in, and she helped us talk about some health stuff, and we're going to revisit that next week. I'm super excited about that conversation because yes, she is. We're going to drill down on some things, specifically supplements. And I ran across an article this week about foods and what it is about certain foods that are so healthful. Why? So I think that's going to be a great fun subject. But this week, and we've been talking, we're always talking about economics and all the world's crazy stuff going on. But Brad and I thought this week we would talk about solutions, because the American family is under assault, right, Brad? Why don't you take it for a couple minutes? I got some technical thing I got to mess with here. Talk about that, please.
Well, I want to dive in a little bit on the problem, I guess, first, but I'm a guy, I'm a strong believer, and I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution, but we got to recognize that there is a problem, what that is first, and then we can look at solutions. So I'll approach it that way. But the global jobless recovery. Now, I'm a contrarian, Val. I'm pretty certain that you are too, based on your posts on Facebook. And by that, I think that's a good thing. I think there's a lack of critical thinking in our culture. When it comes to economics, I studied economics in college. It never really made much of a sense. I'll just lay the foundation. I actually had a professor in one of my economics classes. It was probably one of the wisest observations I ever heard. He was actually an economist with the Seattle City Light. And he said, economists would like you to believe they know more about the economy than they actually do. And I thought about that. I said, this is a guy who's practicing in the profession. But I want to say this because I am a student of Ludwig von Mises. That I follow the von Mises Institute. I've gone to a couple of their seminars the past 10 years. Have come into Seattle, very much a proponent of free market economics versus controlled or socialist economics. The interesting thing about the Mises, what's called the Austrian School of Economics, they go way back to early 20s. They were actually, one of their economists, and I believe it was F.A. Hayek, actually predicted, and this is what got my attention, predicted the Great Depression. And I thought, wow, that got my attention because we don't hear much about it. We hear about what happens. We don't hear about, hey, there's actually people out there that were paying attention, and they said, hey, this is going to happen. Their voices didn't get heard much, but after it happened, it's like there were people out there that said, hey, this is going to happen.
Do you remember hearing what that was based on?
Well, it's basically a deal on how the markets work. The market in 1929 was vastly overpriced. There's a lot of speculation going on, pretty much similar to what happened in 2008. And I might even say we've headed back that direction over the last 10 years. But it has to do with the government control of the economy. The government control of the economy was as great as it had ever been. And the result was devastating. Basically created the Great Depression. They want to blame business, but nobody ever blames the government. If you notice, the government never takes blame for anything. They never do anything wrong. They never say, gosh, we blew it. We made a wrong decision. But it was really the government control of the economy, and a lot of FDR's quote solutions that really weren't. They actually made it even worse, that prolonged the Great Depression and led it to be such a stigma in our economic history. That's the short side of it. So just to give you a little short picture, there are schools of economics. I think most of the schools of economics out there are sadly mistaken and off. All this. I'm not a math guy, so when I found out the majority of, if you continue in economics and got your master's or PhD, you had to understand math. Well, that ruled me out because I don't do that. But the Austrian School of Economics really relied more on human action. How do people act? How do they react? And it took away the mysticism of most economics, most econometric modeling. Sorry, I'm back in 1984 in college here. Aren't right. The economic modeling is messed up. It doesn't work. It doesn't show the truth. It doesn't tell us what's going to go on. So a lot of what we're being fed in the news media and all this is not correct. We talked about the inflation rate last week. Now we're going to talk about the global jobless recovery. I'm not saying this is gospel truth, but Val, me and you have talked about the global jobless recovery. What's happening? I think it's going to take a lot longer, at least in other parts of the world too. Now we're talking global, not U.S. The U.S. added 1.7 million jobs in July. So this data is just a couple months old compared to that consensus estimate of 1.48 million. Okay, great. What does that mean? Well, really nothing on its own, but they say headline, the official unemployment rates are misleading due to different subsidies and furloughed jobs. And what the key point here is, in this crisis, there have been two policies when addressing the unemployment challenge: dynamism versus the intervention in the job mechanisms. And their big point here is we have to alert of a global problem, the jobless recovery. There's going to be some issues. The government doesn't want to tell us the bad news because they don't want us to panic and freak out, versus everything's going great. Hey, there's smog in Seattle now. There's no problem. COVID-19. Yeah, just wear a mask, all this stuff. And, inflation, it's at 2%. No, it's not. You can't make correct decisions if you don't have proper data, right, Val? If your information, garbage in, garbage out. If you're getting misleading data or misleading information in, you're not going to get an optimal solution. Now, they look at I don't want to get too far into this, a global, what's called the PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. Our financial planner covers this every 6 months with us, talks about, if they're, purchasing managers are buying stuff, that's a good sign. They're saying that, that the PMI maybe is not necessarily the best indicator. They're saying a global PMI recovery with widespread job destruction shows us that most of the headline PMIs simply reflect a month-on-month bounce from depression levels, not a return to pre-COVID industry levels. So they're not quite a big proponent of this. But the bottom line of all this is that we may find that the global activity trend weakens almost as fast as it bounced. So they're not sure that this quote global jobless recovery is really going to hold. So far, the U.S. is leading in employment improvement. Okay. But the bottom line is this: they're saying the U.S. needs to separate itself from other governments' policies. It's got to liberalize and cut red tape to boost job creation, because the recovery is stalling in many developed and emerging economies, and copying failed interventionist measures, that's a key word here, will not bring employment back. And that is the problem. When the government gets involved, things usually get worse. So that's my quick synopsis. So the U.S. might do good, but a lot of other countries, Val, we work in a lot of other countries, they may not see a jobless or a recovery in their loss of jobs as much as the U.S. So that's going to have lagging impacts.
It's so true, everything you said there. And I just, a couple of things really jumped out at me that I want to share. First off, when politicians are running the economy, it never goes right. It never, ever goes right. And this is one of the fundamental problems with socialism is it is a political beast. It is meant to appeal to people and purchase votes from people, but it doesn't deliver. It cannot. So there is this fact that most people don't, I don't know what it is. Either they don't have the education or they don't have the maybe number of years of being able to watch it like you and I have, that they don't realize this. But I've watched economists for, 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. And it interests me that there are certain people, and I'll point out Paul Krugman is one of them. This is a Harvard, I think, a Harvard economist. He's a tenured professor there. I've been watching him for more than 20 years. He has never been right on anything.
No, he's the New York Times. He's their economist go-to guy.
I know, because these people get in these positions and they get tenure or they get notoriety.
They get people patting them on the back and good. This
happens in the scientific world too, where somebody's introduced as the foremost expert on viruses or something like that. And you listen to what they're saying and you're thinking, nothing this guy said is right. And Krugman falls into that. On the other side, Art Laffer, who I've also been watching, these two, and they are complete opposites. I've never known Art Laffer to be wrong on anything. I mean, he gets it. And I've noticed this in the business world, that a lot of times business people, they've had amazing success, and people, look and they think that they've had all this success because they actually know what's going on, that they get it. And many times those people I was a consultant. Those people are hiring consultants behind the doors. They're telling you, I don't know how this company got so successful. I was in the right place at the right time. And I knew a technology, and now all of a sudden this company is bigger and I can't run it. Something's not going right. And usually it's pretty simple. When you take a look at their operation, you look and you go, well, wait a minute, you're not doing this or you're not doing that. And this is the forest for the trees. So much of what's going on with the economy gets triggered because the government institutes policies to buy votes to pay off donors.
Yep.
And it creates a bubble. And this is what happened with the prime mortgage deal, right?
Right.
This happens over and over again, and it's happening right now. Right now, because of this fake narrative that resulted in the collapse of the world's economies. Sorry, if you're just stumbling into this and you think I just put my tinfoil hat on, stick around for a while. You'll see that everything that Brad and I said 6 months ago has absolutely been shown to be true.
Yeah, we didn't think that was going to happen, but the consensus economists, I mean, Val, it's interesting to see, and I'm not a fan of FDR. I think the guy was
me too,
tyrant that's the nicest term I could come up with. But the guy was president for 12 years. My parents grew up in that. They looked at him as a saint because he could control the media. He came across as a caring guy, but I think he screwed up the economy bigger than anybody. But you have these guys like Paul Krugman that publish weekly columns in New York Times, biggest circulation newspaper in the U.S. online. So they get a big audience, and you have papers like New York Times that are left-leaning that promote these type of people. And hey, if you listen to this guy, he's got it right. Versus, again, when I stumbled across Austrian economics and started doing the reading, I could actually read the books. I could read Mises and understand them. I could read Murray Rothbard to understand what he's saying. He's got an interesting book on the cause of the Great Depression. Economics isn't all that hard to understand. The math doesn't work. They tell you, well, we've got this model. It shows this is going to happen. They haven't been right. You don't need to do that to figure out what's going on, Val, for just what you're saying. When the government controls things, they artificially lower interest rates like we had in 2008, and they don't take any responsibility. The U.S. government was the drug dealer that gave the lenders, I'm not absolving the mortgage companies of responsibility, but they lowered the interest rates to tell the mortgage companies, hey, loan out money. Yeah, it's whatever, crazy stuff, adjustable rate mortgages, interest rate only, do it. And then when the market went south, guess where the government's pointing the oh, look at all these,
Well, then it was the banks are too big to fail. We need to bail them out. There was a lot of that, not all of them. No. And right now, what's happening is that the economy's collapsed. We've got I'm reading statistics that I almost find hard to believe, but I have no other way of verifying them. One of those is 40 million households are on the verge of eviction. I think the number's huge. 40 million, though, seems like an awful big number to me. But regardless, there's two economies going on right now. And one is the economy of people who work in hotels and restaurants and the airline industry and many service, industry types of things. And they are wiped out. Those jobs are gone. A lot of the restaurants are gone forever. I drove down First Avenue and Fourth Avenue yesterday in Seattle, south of the Dome down there, what we call SoDo. And there were numbers of different kinds of restaurants and things down there. So many of them are boarded up. I mean, they aren't coming back. They pulled the signs down.
Not in Seattle anyway.
No. And so those people that work there, the districts, there's no traffic. There's no people down there. They aren't coming back. So you've got that, but then you've got another side of industry that is the high tech part, and it's global. That's part of what I want to impress on people, is that part of this shift is going from local to global. And of course, of all of those, Amazon's the big winner, right? I mean, I read a statistic yesterday. If Jeff Bezos gave all of the 800,000 Amazon employees $105,000, I think it was, just gave it to him as a bonus, he'd be at the same point that he was before the virus event. I am not going to use that P word. Okay. I'm not going to use that, just so you know. I don't believe in it. No. I think it's a crock, but I call it an event. Okay. Yeah. So there are some big winners out there. Amazon's got a big hiring blitz right now. I think they said that they were going to hire 50,000 people. The average wage, these are mostly tech people. Okay. The average wage, 150 package. I'm sorry. Average wage and benefits package, average $150,000 a year. Now, so you got this dichotomy, right? You've got tens of millions of people who don't know where they're going to live 2 months from now. And you've got this other side. And the problem is the gulf that these people can't get with their skill sets, their age, whatever it is. They can't get from this side of being part of the tens of millions who are going under to get to this side and get a $150,000 job. Those two don't line up. The skill sets. And
right.
and I had a friend of mine who's in her mid-50s, and she made a statement to me the other day. She says, "Yeah, I'm going back to school. I'm going to get another degree." I was kind. I didn't point out that by the time she gets out of school, she's going to be almost 60. And you're competing, you're going in for a job interview and you're face to face with a recruiter and you're competing against somebody that's 25.
Yep.
I'm sorry. That's just the truth of the matter. And you had to go back to college to get the skill sets. That person grew up gaming and doing all those things. To them, it's as second nature as you and I speaking English. We don't even have to think about it. And I sometimes I watch my wife. She's a generation or two younger than me. And the things she intuitively knows, I look at her sometimes, I see, how did you know that? You're not she's not an IT educated person.
I know.
But
grew up in different worlds.
She's becoming a monster in social media. And I love it on one hand. On the other hand, every computer in my house is tied up streaming videos and doing stuff and whatever she's got. Every computer's got 5 different, criminy. See, I'm blanking. Five different platforms running on it, doing all kinds of things, Yep. And they just intuitively know these things. So the point is, how are these people, what can these people do that are on the left side, let's call it? I'm not talking the political left. I'm just talking about the left side of the ledger sheet here.
Right.
How do you fix this problem that you're a have-not and you can't get over to the have side of the page?
Well, Val, here's what I'm going to say, and we're similar age, but we've talked about this. You're going to have to learn new skills. I'll go so far as to say it's not optional, people. I'm 60 years old. Okay. I've spent the last, year and a half learning and understanding social media. I'm still getting it, but I'm amazed at people that just don't, what the old expression, a old cow looking at a new gate. I mean, they don't even get it. They don't even know that world exists. But being able to keep up with this stuff, it's not optional, but you can learn this stuff. But again, you have to be able to stretch and grow and realize that this is something you need to understand what's going on. Again, as I go back to what it said initially, you understand what the problem is or where things are going. But most people are like they've got blinders on and their heads down. Okay, I got my job. Or I'm maybe losing my job. I don't know. And they keep looking at the job for the solution. Val, I would say your friend, going back to college. Why? You're going to spend how much money to do that? You could learn this stuff on the internet if you really got in it and start. Self-education is the big thing. The point I want to make, Val, is it's up to us. It's not the formal education that makes us or will make us wealthy or successful. It's the personal development education.
I'm going to agree with you in part there.
Yeah.
That all of this stuff you can learn online. But unless you go through some kind of an accredited program, you don't have a degree. And if you're on the left side, if you're on the have-nots, and you can have all the skill sets, you can know how to do this stuff. But if you don't have age, if you're not in the right bracket, if you're not in the right demographic, and you don't have that degree, Amazon, Google, whatever, they're not picking you up. It's not going to happen unless you're talking about driving deliveries or something like that.
Well, I think there's a lot you can do on the internet. I've been talking to several people. A good friend of mine interviewed. You'll see the Monday Morning Leadership come up. She started to jump into leadership coaching. She's a former pastor, got John Maxwell certified. You'll see her interview. I'll post Monday. But somebody else, I was trying to encourage her to start a blog or something. There's so many things. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time because you don't need a college degree. You just need to understand what's happening And I like to use the example where the cheese has been moved, and you can start taking advantage of these things and monetize. So I'm not really necessarily looking at you need a certification or an accredited institution. You just need to know where, like Gary Vaynerchuk says, where are people's eyeballs now, right? Amazon's position, they didn't see this years ago. They're perfect. We see Amazon vans up and down our street all day. I mean, they're all over the place. They're busier than all get out. Okay, but I think people can position themselves, Val, to take advantage, but it entails learning, being willing to learn and grow, okay, and then taking advantage of new skill sets, but you have to learn those.
I completely 100% agree. And I think what you and I also completely agree on is that for a lot of those people who are in the have-not side, they're probably not going to get to the have side through corporate employment, not over the age of 50. And I've been out there, I've turned in hundreds of resumes, and you probably remember my story about the interview where I went in, and it was a what's called a panel interview, kind of a weird. Usually when you go into a panel interview, you're interviewing in front of 5 people at that company, and they're interviewing you. This was an inverse panel. In other words, there were 5 interviewees there and the guy that owned the company. It was a really weird situation, kind of interesting. But I'm sitting there having spent a lifetime in that industry, and I looked up at they had a enormous whiteboard there with all of their projects, the clients and the clients' project managers there. And I literally am sitting there and I'm going down there, and 70% probably of those projects I personally knew. I had a personal relationship with the project manager. I could have called that person up and said, hey, well, Val Campbell, how you been? Oh, how you been? Been a long time, da da da. And there was a history there. The person that got the job was a 20-something. Sorry, this is not going to sound good, but it's the truth. Okay, 20-something, very good-looking blonde who had never worked in the industry, knew nothing about it. This was for a marketing position. Me with a background in marketing in the industry of at that point in time, probably 35 plus years. And it's just what it is. It's just what it is. There are certain things that you can't compete around.
Yep.
But so the corporate world is not going to value you, but the marketplace will. The marketplace will value those skills and the skills that people are going to pick up. So let's start off, Brad, by talking about, we're going to kind of talk about 2 things here today that I think are probably the biggest. And if you know of other ones, pitch them in. But the first thing is consumer networking, because you and I both have a background in this. We're both believers that this is an option for a lot of people. So do you want to talk about that for just a minute? Networking. Consumer
network marketing.
Yes.
Both. Well, it was interesting. So I talked to my friend Ruth about this. She's starting up her leadership business, but I'm a big believer, and this is a needed skill for anybody. But what social media gives you the ability to do, and again, it's largely free. Yeah, you've got to have a internet service provider, router, all that stuff. But you can get on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is, and it's free. And there's 32 different platforms. I've done a couple posts on this that you can use to build your business, but it comes down to you have to network with people. There is a skill to networking and building a network of people. And my friend Ruth is starting to find that she was just amazed. She's only been doing this a few months, but wow, all these people are reaching out. I go, yeah, if you do it, if you work it, it will work for you. She's in a little bit different industry, obviously, than us, but you have to network and I'm constantly growing my network on social media. I've got you've got thousands. I know, Val, so I'm way behind you, but I think about 1,000 people on Facebook. I started out with about 100 some. I'm almost just shy of 500 followers on my business page in about a year. And I've got almost 1,000 people on my LinkedIn network. I've got about 1,800 connections, but I've got about almost 1,000 people that we've made connections. But that is an important skill. Networking, building a network with people.
Can I talk about that for just a second? Because I want to give an example. Okay, so let's explain to people what we're talking about. We're talking about it goes by different names, okay? Because the concept is essentially the same, but what differs are the types of compensation plans that you're accessing and the way that you're developing your business. So, affiliate marketing, network marketing, MLM, social media influencers. There's a lot of different ways that you're doing this, but the bottom line is you are influencing the purchasing behaviors of populations of people. So you are using usually social media. I mean, that's the internet's about the only thing that this is about these days. You're not going to go up and down the street with a sign. That's crazy. The internet is so powerful, and there are ways and places and people like you and I that teach people to do this.
Right.
But you are influencing people to purchase through certain channels for many potential different reasons. And then on the other side, you have compensation plans, companies that have looked at this and said, we want to pay the influencers for, bringing people in here for purchases that happen as a result of their influencing. Right. Yeah. So, you and I are big fans of consumer networking because of the power of it. It's not fast necessarily, but once you build it, it tends to be durable. And the compensation plan is very robust. Okay. But there's other, there's other kinds of deals out there. My wife is a social media influencer. She's developed this skill over the past couple of years and really works very hard at it. I mean, if anybody thinks this is money for nothing, I mean, she's up half the night a lot of times. She's sleeping right now because she was up until 1 o'clock in the morning. She literally we're sitting right there in bed beside me on an iPad with a keyboard, and but part of what she now, by the way, she's picked up 1,000 followers in the last week. 1,000 followers on social media in the last week. And how is she doing that? By networking with people overseas, and they put a group together, and they are working together to help each other influence the algorithms and the search engines on social media to drive traffic to them. It's a team. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about people who probably couldn't have the skill sets, wouldn't have the abilities to do this by themselves, but by connecting with other people, they can learn how to do that, because partly what we need is we just need people.
Yeah.
Ignorant people, come on in. We'll make you, we'll educate you. We'll help you. Right. And that's the case with almost all of these situations, but it takes some time to get this built up.
Yeah.
Right. So do you have anything to,
well, this is what fascinates me, Val. The more I've delved into internet, I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I keep saying that because the guy gets social media. He was on social media before it was cool, or people even understood or thought you could use it to make any money. So the guy's worth about $200 million now and growing. So he knows what he's talking about. But when you understand that, Google owns YouTube. YouTube's got about 2 billion subscribers. Facebook's got about 2.6 billion monthly users. That's a huge audience. If you can learn how to tap into that audience, which Ems, and bless her heart for doing that, there's a huge potential audience to reach and influence. But you do have to learn how to do that. But that doesn't require a college degree. You don't have to have an MBA from Harvard or Stanford. Nope. But there is money to be made on using social media platforms if you use them for business. I think you have to have the right mindset. I was just talking about somebody earlier in the week. So many people, and we're business people, but it bugs me. And people say, "Oh, I'm giving up on social media." Well, if you have no reason to use it and you don't see its value beyond just some chit chat thing, I get it. But what if you had the mindset and you looked at it as a business person, said, how can I use this? How can I influence people? How can I add value to people? How can I build a network? I'm still amazed by it. It's just You have 2 billion plus people. There's 7 billion people in the world, and these platforms have a combined about 4.5 billion. What's that? 3/4, 2/3 of the world's population on them. And I don't know how many on others. TikTok's about 800 million. LinkedIn's about 6.2, 610 million people. That's a huge audience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing, and the best part about this, I think, is that once you get your business built up, whatever platform and process you're working, once you get that built up, you own it. You don't get fired, you don't get downsized out of the work, the cash flow stream. You own that, and you control it, and you can add to it. I love that. You know, if employment is your way of doing something, if that's all you've got, how are you going to increase your wages 30 or 40% in the next couple of years? I mean, that's a huge raise to go into your boss and say, well, you know, I really think I need a 40% increase to keep up with, you know, the fact that homes in Seattle are going crazy right now because Amazon's paying everybody $150,000 a year. When Amazon's paying everybody an average $150,000 a year, and Google and whatever, same thing, they're all matching pace. All of these companies out here in Seattle now, they are having to match that. And what that means is they look at this and they say, my industry I don't make enough money to pay people $150,000 a year. I'm going to move to Boise, Idaho and hire people there. And then now the people that were working for the company here in Seattle, they're going, now I get nothing. And so you need to be able to start thinking about owning what you have. Yep. And let's talk about what are some of the ideas. And then I'd like to shift over in a few minutes to talk about jewelbook.com, because I think that plays into this also.
Great.
So let's talk about, you know, first off, consumer networking. You know, if anybody wants to know about consumer networking and how that works and whatever, get a hold of Brad or I. Yeah. And drop a message in here and talk to us about this, because this is not your grandmother's door-to-door ding-dong business. This is now a global business that tens of thousands of companies all over the world are paying people through that kind of a compensation plan. So don't get confused by what you hear out there. But so there's that, right?
Yeah.
But let's say somebody wants to do other things or figure out how they want to do things. Your daughter, has a business, and she's getting involved more and more in social media campaigning, right? I think
based of the Zen 28. Now, what I wanted to say, Val, because I know what 3LE's doing, and I've been on the videos with both Joel Kellman. We are working with a top-notch software developer and also a guy named Paul Counts, Marketing Counts, a digital marketing specialist. The guy actually lives in Bremerton. I had a conversation with him earlier this week, but the guy worked with some top Fortune 500 companies, works with Les Brown. We're kind of turning this industry on the head with stuff we're doing. I mean, who has a software development specialist and a marketing agency working with them in this industry? Nobody. No. Nobody. Because this isn't your grandma's Avon, Amway, Shackley, what have you type business. This is big, social media, and we're working with top notch. This guy, Paul Counts, is one of the top people in his industry. The guy absolutely knows what he's doing.
So what other kinds of things can people do? Because we obviously have the ability to talk for hours on that, but I'm thinking about things like people that might like cooking or sewing or quilting or reviewing books. If somebody's really into literature or home repair, painting, contracting, different kinds of things. What are some other kind of business consulting, personal consulting, counseling, family counseling stuff? I mean, you got to be careful of licensing or whatever. You don't want to get into that realm, but there's a lot of things that you can do on social media. And some of these people, like Jessica Higdon, who I've had a professional crush on for 10 years. She's awesome. Lisa Irby, the same thing. They literally coach people. Their social media influencing is coaching people how to be social media influencers, because they got started, they worked their way through. Now they share what they learned. And there's a lot of that. So
big time.
Any of these kinds of things we're talking about, and Brad, you can throw some more in here too, but people can go on and get Facebook pages and LinkedIn pages and blog sites and all kinds of different things, and learn little by little, learn how to do it.
Relatively inexpensive. But again, I go back to the fact, Val, social media, Gary Vaynerchuk's the guy that says social media is free. And I did a video on this a couple weeks ago. What are you waiting for? Social media, it's there. If you use it and you work it, it'll work for it. Val, you can take any of those businesses, share what you're doing, do video. I keep telling people you need to do video. One of my old competitors from my previous existence, we're good friends, and he's on LinkedIn now, but he just keeps posting pictures. I kept telling Dave, you need to do video. You need to do video. He's not getting it. He's in there, but video is what does it, Val. So you can take any business. You can do a blog. You can do our pastor started doing podcasts. I encouraged him to do it. He's actually doing really well. It's a natural thing. There's so many things you can do on social media, but you have to start. You have to take action and start doing it. And,
one of the things that I would like to share with everybody, and you probably, remember Hong Lee and some of the discussions we've had, is she started a website called joulebook.com, JOULEBOOK.com. Yeah. And we posted that, by the way, I posted that link over in our Facebook thing. By the way, I want to take a second. I want to give a shout out to Lisa Lewis. She's just such a dear person, and she's tuned into us a couple of weeks ago, and she's been faithfully following the Saturday morning show, one of many. Great. And she posted something here. She said, made that mistake too, going back to school in the 50s. You're right. Don't do it. I don't ever want to discourage somebody from going to school, but the point is to go to school to think that then that's going to be your key to
what's your ROI?
To a 60-year-old entry into the corporate environment.
What's your ROI going to be on that? It's going to be negative.
It's crazy. So if somebody wants to go to school to have fun and learn stuff and whatever, I go to school online. I go to school online every week. There's not something I'm studying, but I just don't feel the need to go back to college. But if somebody wants to do that, great. I just feel a little bit bad for somebody who thinks that they're going to do that and then enter the workforce at 58 years old.
You're in an old paradigm again. We're talking about the paradigm shifted, guys. The cheese has moved, and you've got to understand where it's at. You've got to listen to where are people paying attention right now. Where's the attention? It's on social media on a variety of platforms. So Val, talk a little bit more about JoulBook, because I think that really fits in with this whole paradigm shift and how people
very much
and may be able to make some money by promoting skill sets.
More than anything that I've seen come along in the general sense, okay? And I'm not talking about a specific industry like consumer networking or something like that, but I'm talking about in a general sense. Just about everybody has what I call some kind of superpower. We all have something, and many of us have more than one thing that we're really good at. We've developed those skills, and it might be something as easy as being a really great mom, knowing how to raise kids, breastfeeding. I'm telling you, and there's a lot of women out there that struggle with that really would like to be more successful at that. And I picked that because I happen to know a couple of young moms right now. They're kind of going through that struggle, and in some places they have really good support groups, but not everywhere. Well, you could have an online business doing that. You could be, quilting or sewing or cooking. I can just think of so many different ways that people can do this. But how do they develop that skill? How do they put some kind of a page together where people can reach them and get paid and do all of that stuff? It's the businessy part of it that stumps people, that intimidates them, and that's where JoulBook.com comes in, because what they did was they started this website that allows people to take a free page, and then and it's brand new, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get this up and running. Okay, everybody understands that. There was a time when Amazon had their first customer. There was a time when Craigslist had their first post in the old bulletin board down in the Bay Area. And JoulBook.com has some users, but it's they're in a massive marketing campaign. It's going to be a big deal because it's at the right place at the right time, where people with these skills, somebody who loves to cook, can have a weekly cooking show or give cooking lessons and put out a an ingredients list and say, this week we're cooking Thai fried rice or something like that. Or sewing, quilting here, get these things at the store, and next week we're going to do this pattern or what. I can just think of 1,000 things probably. And globally, well, I should say nationally because it's US only, but nationally there's tens of thousands of people, at least, and probably millions in some categories of people that would love to find somebody that for a modest price, it could be $10, $20, $50, would attend a class. But when you think about that, when you're there and you can get hooked up with people, if over the course of the next 6 or 8 months, you were able to build up 100 people that were willing to pay you $10 a week, and just as an example, 10 or $15 a week to do something, that's $1,500 a week in side income, and it can grow. It could be a lot bigger than that. You were going to say something, I think.
Well, here's an observation, Val. I seriously, if this company goes public, I want to know because I want to invest in it. Okay, I mean, dead serious about that. Look at the coffee market, Starbucks, SVC, all that. You, and I'm going to make an analogy here as quick as I can. You said there can't be any more coffee companies out there, right? Wrong. As big as Starbucks is, they bought SBC. All these other there's coffee companies all over in Seattle, all over everywhere, right? So the coffee market isn't controlled by Starbucks and the other big players. Just on as social media platforms, yeah, right now the big ones, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn. There is and will be other platforms coming on like Jewel Book, and there's going to be some potential for growth and using. So we haven't seen the last of social media platforms, Val. They're still out there coming along, and I think Jewel Book probably has a niche that I'm pretty excited about. Actually, I think for the potential for people.
I think that they're really onto something, and I encourage everybody to jump over there. And just roughly the way it works is if you're on a free account, which is loaded with features, what happens when somebody comes in and buys your service or whatever, a percentage of that, as it goes through the system, a percentage of that Jewel Book keeps it and passes the rest on to you. That's how they pay for the website. It's a business. Right. But the point there is that it gives you the ability to have a website, another entity manage much of the administration. And it's the administration that's a headache in business. It's not doing the fun thing you love to do. For you, Brad, you were in the corporate sales. It wasn't the sales process, I'm going to venture, that bothered you. It was the traffic you had to sit in. It was
and then you have to manually process the apps and all that, get people's orders. And the sales process was actually pretty easy. It didn't take that long, but it's just, sitting in traffic for 4 or 5, whatever hours a day. And then you have to come back to the office to get the orders input. And you've got all these other distractions. That's where you get bogged down. Fortunately, we did have somebody that I could kind of have help me with some of that stuff. Then I'm much more efficient. The company didn't really get that. Boy, you could get more out of us if I could be out selling more and get somebody to handle the admin. But it's the administration stuff that bogs you down.
Yeah, and it's that way for all of us. If the sales part was fun because that's talking to people. That's helping people with their needs, and they want something. You've got it. You're talking to them, figuring out how to do it. But then, like you say, you've got the 3 hours of filling out forms and stuff like that you just feel like, oh, just shoot me now. And I think that's the case with most people. They say, if I could just cook and somebody'd pay me, or if I could just quilt, or if I could, teach people how to be a good mom, or whatever that skill set is. And it goes beyond that. There are people who love to do party planning. You can hire out as a party planner. There are people who love to DJ at parties. You can hire out as a DJ, and all the bookings and everything, the calendar management, the payments, the whole thing goes through jewelbook.com. So this is a platform that really reaches across a wide range. And I see tens of millions of people out there right now, right on the edge, trying to figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to work from home? How am I going to, school my kids? There's who knows.
Right now. I mean,
I'm literally hearing things that there are certain parts of the economy that they're saying might not be up and running and active again until next summer. Some of these schools are talking about taking the whole school year off, which I think is just nuts. But that's not the point. The point is, Mom, what are you going to do? Dad, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're and for a lot of people, even if you were able to stay employed, your employer came to you and said, look, we don't have enough business. Can you take a cut in pay? And a lot of people are saying, well, between that and going and sitting on the unemployment bench, yeah, I'll take a cut in pay.
Yeah, I did that in 2008, so I know what it's
like. All of us have at some point in time.
Yeah.
So this is a situation where there are options. I guess that's the encouragement that I want to give everybody, just kind of taking a couple of minutes to wrap up here. There are options. You have assets, you have skill sets, you have social media accounts. There are things there that people can use to make money and develop income streams that you own and that are durable for the next downturn, because this is not the last one we're going to have. You know that, right?
Absolutely not. I wish it was, but history says otherwise. So, be prepared. They say dig your hole before you need it type thing, or
dig your well before you're thirsty.
Yeah. If you're in I should say, if you're in a hole, stop digging, but get your well dug before you need it. That's kind of where. Yeah. So
was that you that told me that that's the first law of holes?
Yeah. Stop.
If you're in one, stop digging.
You're watching a show last night, man, crazy British crime drama, but this crime family is like, man, their whole family was like, stop digging. You guys are just digging this hole, and you're, lo and behold. So I'd say reach out to us, Val. Hey, you need some help, some direction. Yeah, Val's kind of the guy. Aren't you helping this jewel book? Can I mention that? Marketing. I think that's a great avenue, guys. There are new and emerging platforms, and I think Jewel Book is one of them. I'm already signed up, got my account, haven't done anything with it yet. I'm waiting for Val to tell me when I can, but reach out to us, man, to help us. We can get you directed on getting going with social media marketing. If you're looking for a way to make some additional money, we can help you with that. Working with Jeunesse Global, and I'm with the 3LE team, but we can show you how to leverage social media. But there's so many avenues available. I just want to encourage people, don't bury your head in the sand. Don't do woe's me. Start moving forward. Start learning a new skill set. See where is the attention going. And it's probably not in the typical job. It's probably not. Well, look at colleges. We don't even know what's going to happen there yet. I'm still waiting to hear what's going on with these major universities. I mean, they've lost the West. I just saw a map. Most of the Western states are not playing college football. I'm a big college football guy. The Southern and Eastern states are. That's a big chunk of revenue for these schools. What's going to happen there?
Monster. And fall out of that. There's another ripple coming along there, and that's an increasing conversation amongst people who are students, and they're saying, wait a minute, there was always this snicker and a giggle when people talked about having an online degree, right? It was always like, your degree is not as good as mine because you went to Phoenix University of Phoenix, or whatever, the online school. Yeah. Well, now that they've all been online, even if it's only been for 6 months, people are looking and they're saying, wait a minute, they were telling me that it wasn't viable. Now they're telling me that this is viable. And there was an adjustment. But now I'm hearing a lot of people talking about, we kind of made this adjustment, and I'm not sure I want to go back the other way. Maybe not 100% anyway.
Right. The paradigm is shifting, guys. The cheese has been moved and is being moved. Where is it? You got to figure it out. And
one of the implications of this is the cities are crashing because people have figured out they can work from home. Companies have figured out
West Coast.
This is working pretty good. I can close my office down or reduce it by 80%. Well, Force-Base saved a bunch of money on that. Tell my people to work from home.
Commercial real estate market's going to go. Woo.
Oh, it is.
I mean,
in New York, it's crushed. In Seattle was one of the hottest employment markets in the world.
We talked about it last year, man.
Amazon, Google, they're Starbucks, they're all down there. And now Amazon has literally moved 40,000 people out of downtown Seattle to their homes and said, yeah, maybe we'll bring you back next year. And the city of Seattle has been giving them such a bad time, and the riots and everything have caused so much damage in downtown Seattle. Amazon literally announced, okay, we're leaving Seattle. They made arrangements to purchase, I think, 1 million square feet of floor space over on the east side, over in Bellevue, and they're leaving Seattle. I mean, this is Amazon leaving Seattle is big or more of a crush
space that they're losing. But that is like shooting yourself in both feet. That's where, again, government, the mass inefficiency and stupidity, they are shooting. Yeah. They're basically lining up their tax base and shooting them.
So the point being is that the cities, people are going to be laid off. In fact, I know a lot of people are laid off. The cities are out of money. They're broke. And they don't know when this is going to come back because the businesses aren't coming back. Their stores
yourself, and then you're wondering what's going on.
Well, the stores are looted. They're closed up. And I know some big major name stores, big brand name stores in Seattle. They're just saying, yeah, we're not coming back. We're going. This has pushed us to the point that we've been talking about for years. We're just going to go online now. So we're talking about the universities, the total paradigm of universities and the money. That's a huge industry. The money is sucked out of it right now for a number of different reasons. And once kids aren't going to school there, that's going to affect the sports culture. And the sports is where a big amount of the money is. So it's a really complicated situation. The effect on the families in the United States and in other parts of the world, but we're talking mostly in the United States and Canada probably here right now. Mm-hmm. The effect is definite. This isn't just a philosophical, interesting conversation anymore. People are living it. And I just want people to think about what it is. You know, people will say, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that. Okay, what do you want to do?
Find something. You can't just put it off and, again, bury your head in the sand and say, well, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to sit here. You're going to get run over, man, by a steamroller. You need to figure out how to take whatever skill set or develop a new skill set, and how can you market that online? How can you help people? How can you start with the question, how can I add value to people?
And everybody knows how to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever it is you don't want to do, don't focus on that. Don't focus on the fact that Brad and I are talking about something you're saying, yeah, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, what do you want to do? We'll help you with that.
Not a big Nike fan now, but Nike's slogan, just do it. I mean, that's really, you've all got skill sets. You really do. Find out what it is. What are you going to take an assessment, the Strengths Finder assessment, whatever it is, and figure out what you're good at. I got Tony Robbins coming up here for 3 hours. I'm excited about that. Val, we got to have you guys down for dinner and maybe some Joe Bonamassa here. Seriously.
I'm good with that. So and Brad gave us the closing words today. 2 phrases, just do it and let's do it. That's it, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great weekend. Love you guys. And we will see you next Saturday on the Saturday Morning Show.
Yeah, looking forward to that with Shelly Reno. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Have an awesome Saturday and blow some of the smoke away in Seattle.
There you go. Bye.
Bye.